Well, that was good timing. Welcome to episode 2 of the fishing show. Thank you so much for your feedback on episode 1, where you joined us with Team Korum fishing for everything. And we got some awesome stuff again for you in this month's episode. We've got Mark Dunwell catching some lovely bream from a nice commercial fishery up in Yorkshire. We've got the awesome Marsh surface fishing for big carp using controller floats and really regulating his feed to get the fish biting. We've also got my old mate, the heron, the human heron himself, Ellis Brazier, who's caught more fish than I've had hot dinners, catching big perch right in the middle of his hometown centre. And finally, we've got the wizard himself, Harry Pardoes, catching chub, a lot bigger than this one, from a small river. Now Harry's a real expert at this kind of fishing. Let's join him as he catches some real big chub in the depths of winter.
Right, welcome to the River Dove. This particular stretch is run by Burton Mutual, one of my favourite clubs. It's a great bit of water because I use it a lot for my barbel fishing in the summer. Quite visual. River's much clearer in the summer. But today we've come to have a go for the chub, and this is actually my second stretch. The first stretch didn't produce, so that leads me on to tip number 1. Keep mobile. If the bites aren't coming in the winter, get on your toes and try and find them. Those fish may be held up in small pockets, and when you find one, you can often find 2. So yeah, tip number 1, keep on the move. Tip number 2 is location, and this swim looks brilliant to me. It's got a nice crease where I'd expect the fish to be holding up at this time of year, running down to some steady water and then shallowing up at the far end, so no real movement for the fish. Something else I'd look for is a feature such as an overhanging tree. They may cause the crease with a slack water behind, and the fish should sit on that crease between the change of the slow water and the fast water, so they can intercept any sort of food passing down the river. Yeah, and that's a good starting point for me. Tip number 3 for winter chubbing is bait selection, and one of my go-tos is liquidised bread and obviously flake on the hook. I just jazz it up a little bit with some Sonia Bates cheesy garlic lava. Just gives it a little bit more punch in the water column, sort of makes it a little bit more attractive. Another favourite is again the cheese paste. Stinks to high heaven, especially the older it is. I'll knock batches up the year before, but absolutely brilliant on its day. And my third choice is the humble maggot. There's not a fish out there that swims that won't eat maggot, and if you can get them competing, these aren't the greatest. Unfortunately, I couldn't get to the tackle shop on time, but these, if you can get chub competing on the float, you can catch multiple fish on them. It's great fun. Tip number 4, the hardware for my chub fishing. Nothing complicated here. I'll start off here with either a 6 or a number 4 super steel all-rounder hook, up to 017 or 019 power line as a hook link, pretty long. I'm using a light link ledger with just a couple of SSG. You can take one off or add a couple if the flow dictates. And as my main line, I've got the 6 pound Expert, really nice. You're looking for nice balanced tackle. The flow's not going to get caught up in that 6 pound line, and it's going to be even more sensitive. Talking of sensitivity, I'm using a 2 ounce glass tip. Anywhere between 1.5 ounces and 2 ounces would be ideal for this sort of fishing, in my opinion. Sometimes the chub can be really sensitive. Today we've struggled to pick bites up, and when we have had bites, it's been really sensitive. Little tap and then a steady pull round. So it's important that they don't feel any resistance. And then the rod is a power quiver, neoteric. plenty of backbone in it, even though it's got that soft tip. Loads of backbone to get those chub away from the snags. And at long last, a fish. Where are you going? Cheeky chub. Well, a great way to end the session. Finally, after all our hard work, moving section and swim 6 times, we finally got our reward with a £5 10-ounce chub. It has been tough today. The river's rising. It's probably a little bit cooler as well. We've had some cold rain going in, but that's a right result, that is. I'm really happy with that.
I'll tell you what, that Harry's a bit of a Jedi, but if Harry Pardoes is a Jedi, then this next bloke is Yoda. Ellis Brazier, I've known him for over 20 years, and he really knows a thing or two about the River Severn, catching fish a lot bigger than this one. We join him on the float in a nice frosty cold morning, middle of Shrewsbury town centre, catching great big perch.
Okay, so good morning. You join us on a very, very cold and frosty morning. There's a lot of mist about. The grass is white, but we're going to try and catch ourselves an early winter perch. So we're just upstream of Shrewsbury here, and the river's in really nice condition, dropping down after a flood last week. The overnight dip in temperature might be a bit of a challenge, but let's see if we can get one before this big out sun comes up and makes everything bright. So let's have a go. Fishing one of my favourite methods today. We're just quietly and gently float fishing down a worm. There's probably no more natural presentation than what we're doing. Okay, so we had an inquiry there. Really, really nice bite. Exactly what you'd expect on a frosty morning. Just dipped, bobbed the float, and then slowly slid away. Okay, so I had 2 worms on then. I'm just going to go down to 1 now. They do get fish for a lot, these perch here, so they're quite wary. Yep, so we're in. Fish on. Not a big fish. Lovely. He's a grower. Lovely little 7 perch. I'm going to pop him back down the bottom of the run so we don't disturb the others. Okay, so nice start in the mist. Nice little fish. Like I said, my favourite tactic. Avon style float. Just under depth. 6 pound line on a float rod. Really as simple as that. So we keep feeding the chop worm, try and keep them interested, and we're just going to keep running down, see if we can get a better one. Like to start well above where I've been feeding and then run down into the fish instead of casting that float on top of them. This method by its very nature affords you that presentation that is so much similar to a worm coming down naturally that's been washed out the bank. It seems a shame to waste it by casting right on top of where you expect the fish to be. Let the float come into where the fish are. This feels a better one. Come on, the perch. No, he's about the same size. Beauty, number 2. Number 2, lip up like the last one. Beautiful little fish. Just pop him back down here. Just before I cast out, one thing I'm doing is, even though I'm fishing with dendrobenas, a red worm chopped up, fed, just gently fed, not too much, it's a cold morning, I always fish what I call a blackhead, so an earthworm, basically dug out the garden, out the bank of the river, exactly what they expect to see, just tipped with a little red maggot just to give it a sight, a little bit of something to home in on. So let's run it down again and see if there's still a few at home. Yeah, it's a better fish. I love playing these on the float rod. I'm old school. I'm getting old myself. I was brought up to fish the float on the river, especially in the winter. and it's something I've never ever got bored of. It really is a classic method, and this does feel like a slightly better fish. Let's hope he stays on, because they can have a horrible tendency to fall off on these small hooks. Oh yeah, that was a good boil. Oh, it's a better fish, it's a better fish, it's a better fish, it's a cracker. It's what we're after. Oh, don't rush it. There's some good boils coming out. Oh, it's a belting fish. Come on, darling. Come on, darling. There she is. That's what we're after. So frosty morning, misty, and the jewel of the 7. Bang on the nose, 3-pound perch. What a wonderful fish. Float fish worm, trotted down, as I've been doing since I was a kid. Absolutely beautiful. We'll call him Arthur. It's his encounter with an otter some time ago. Wonderful. Don't get much better than that.
Well, we'll go from the very cold to the very hot. I can't wait to have a go for the perch and the chub on the float this winter. But in the summer, you can't beat a bit of surface stalking. And we join Nick Marsh, who shows you his tips and tricks to catching more big uns off the surface.
So it's summer, that means of course I'm fishing on the surface, and in this video I'm wanting to take you through how I do that when I'm freelining. So here we go, I've got my opportunist rod. This one is the 8-foot version, which is great for this type of sort of stalking approach to fishing. Axis 4000 reel. There's my 12-pound fluorocarbon. Make sure you do use a floating main line. Last thing you want is a sinking main line. So I've got 12-pound fluorocarbon, grinner to grinner, down to the smoke screen, 10-pound smoke screen. That's then coming down to the hook that is put on with the knotless knot. And there's the trim down pop-up that's mounted really nice and tight to the hook. And that is my free line surface rig when I'm trying to match the hatch, match the mixers, and try and fall some of these carp that are a little bit more wary. This has got to be it, come on. Yes! There's the rod hooked over that. Lovely. You've got to love that. Come on. Want that little size 10 to stay in. Just being patient. Oh, one last run, fair play. really fighting well. Come on, come on, come on. There he is, look. Oh, yes. Got him. Lovely days. Oh yeah, he's all right. He's bigger than I thought. Oof. Well happy with that, really happy with that. First from a new venue too.
Well, you might have noticed today I'm using a few little new bits and pieces coming out later in the year. Now, somebody who helps us quite a bit on the testing front, especially when it comes to the sort of commercial side of fishing, day ticket waters, is Mark Dunwell. This lovely Yorkshireman is a great angler and he can catch all different kinds of species in all different kinds of manners. Let's check him out catching big bream sitting behind alarms on the feeder.
Join me here today at Starcar Lakes over in East Yorkshire. It's a series of old gravel pits and they go down to 20 feet in places, and we're here to target some of the bream in this deep water. And what I'm going to show you today is some of the tips and tactics I use to target them. Right, the bait I'm using today is taking advantage of the Bream Sweet Tooth. I've got the new Sonobaits Power Scope X ground bait. I've got the F1 Sweet 2mm pellets for putting on the feeder, and on the hook I'm either using the new 8mm sinkers in Scope X or a 10mm wafter. I'm just alternating the colours there on the hook. What I'm doing is, to make sure the bait gets down in this deep water, at the moment I'm fishing in 20 foot of water, is I'm putting a light skim of ground bait into the feeder first, then adding the hook bait and adding the pellets afterwards, and that allows me to give the feeder a good hard squeeze to make sure it gets to the bottom before it releases everything. In between that, if I'm struggling a little bit for bites, I'm adding a little bit more traction just by using the Power Scope X haze as well on the feeder. Go. First one today. It's pulling a little bit in this deep water. Let's bring it in some nice steady pressure. Still feels weird playing them in 20 foot of water. comes. That's a nice fish. Oh, there we go. Okay, so I've just put that fish back. So I've got my rig out of water. I'll give you a chance to see what I'm using. It's basically just a 30 gram Dura method feeder that comes with a quick change bead that allows you to swap hook lengths over. I've got a 4-inch hook length, and it's a 6-pound drop shot fluorocarbon from Korum, a size 12 grappler hook, and I'm just banding on an 8mm sinker. So as I explained earlier, the reason why I'm putting ground bait in the feeder first is just purely down to the depth of water I'm fishing in. I just think if you just got pellets on the feeder on by themselves, some of them will come off on the way down and that'll disperse the fish. So by adding a ground bait shield to my feeder, it stops any of those pellets coming off. Right, the last fish of the day. It's been a brilliant session on Starcar Lakes. Have a look on the Facebook page, get yourself booked on, use some of the methods that I've shown you today and some of the baits, and hopefully you'll enjoy a good day as I have.
Well, once again, thank you for tuning in to the fishing show. Don't forget, hit subscribe, hit like, and tell us in the comments below the kind of material you want to see on the fishing show. I'm going to do my best not to fall in the river and try and catch me some more fish. Until next time, thanks for tuning in. Tight lines.